This conference will now be recorded.
Hello students, I'm Dr. Divya from TeenEinstein. So today we are moving to next part of this chapter, organism and population. In this part, we are going to discuss about adaptations, different types of adaptations. So what do you mean by adaptation actually? What is called as adaptation? So adaptation means, see, usually we used to say that this organism is adapted to this climatic condition. So what do you mean by that word adaptation? So adaptation, that is an evolved trait, a trait which is evolved. By birth, it's not there like that. See, just for understanding that term, I'm saying like it's an evolved trait. It's not there. It is evolving from somewhere. It's getting evolved. That trait is not there. But it's not like that. Exactly, we can't say by birth it's not there. Like through generations, it is passing that trait. Okay. So how we can say this adaptation, they are helping. For what these adaptations are used? That is for helping that organism to survive in particular climatic condition, to survive in a particular climatic condition, that some organisms will have some kind of adaptations. So all these which is helping that organism to survive and reproduce, that is called as adaptation. So in its environment, that organism is able to survive and reproduce with the help of these kind of adaptations. Otherwise, it will be difficult for that particular organism to survive in a condition which is not matching for the physiology or morphology of that organism. So the adaptations, they are helping the organism to survive and reproduce in its environment. That is called as adaptation. So adaptation, they are evolved traits, and it is helping the organism to survive and reproduce in that environment. In which environment it is living, in that environment it is allowing, or it is helping that organism to survive and reproduce. So to study whether that characteristic, that is an adaptation or not, we need to study the environment. First, we need to study the environment and where that organism is living. About that we need to study. Then only we can say about one character whether it is an adaptation or it is that organism is as such with that character. Okay. So we are saying like that adaptation, that is evolved trait, and according to that situation or according to the environmental condition, it is getting evolved to survive in that environmental condition. The body of the organism, it is developing these adaptations. So first, by considering one character, we cannot say that directly it is an adaptation or not. Before that, we need to conduct a study about the environment where that organism is living. So based on that environmental condition, we can decide that that organism, the character which we have selected in an organism, that is an adaptation or not. So we need to study the environment that the organism lives in, because that evolution or the changes brought in that organism, it is due to the influence of the environment. That's what I said. With the influence of that environment only, one character is getting evolved. Right? Suddenly, within 1 or 2 days, one organism won't get a particular character. to get adapted into a condition. So slowly it is developing in that organism. So it may take years to develop such a character. So what it will be like, it is an evolved character. So it may take many days or years, weeks, months to develop such characters. So because of that evolution or the change which is brought in that organism, it is due to the influence. Mainly it is due to the influence of the environment. Due to that environmental changes, that organism is getting adapted to that condition. So it is not developed within minutes. Okay, it may take so many days. So that is basically, it is based on the influence of that environment where that organism is living. Okay, so all living organisms, they are having one or the other type. Okay, one or the other type of adaptation all organisms will be having. Why? Because they have special features that helps them to survive in certain conditions. So how these changes are developing, or how these differences from the normal organism, how these are getting some differences, or how these adaptations are developing. So that starts from the genetic level. That's what I said. It's not from one, it is not developed within 1 or 2 days. It is starting from the genetic level. Then it is getting passed from one generation to the next generation. Got it? So one adaptation, it is not evolved within 1 or 2 days. First, it is starting from the genetic level. Okay, from the genetic level, that adaptation, then only it is passing to, it will get passed into the next generation. Okay, so it is starting from the genetic level, and then it is getting passed from one generation to next generation. So for copying that particular adaptation from one generation to next generation, that should start from the genetic level. Then only it will get passed into next generation through reproduction or something, right? Otherwise, it will never pass into the next generation. So that's what it is not. And that evolution or the change that brought in that organism, it is mainly because of the influence of that environment. And that environmental influence, that is starting from the genetic level. So that change which is coming into an organism, that is starting from the genetic level, the gene itself changing for that new character. Okay, then it is getting passed from one generation to next generation. So for coping with that extreme situations in the environment, for that purpose, organisms are getting adapted. Okay, so for what purpose? To adjust, for getting adjusted with the extreme conditions which they cannot survive with the normal body or physiological or morphological conditions. At that moment, that changes starts, or that organism is getting evolved, or that evolution is starting from that point, at which point that organism is not able to exist with the persisting condition. So that time onwards, that evolution, that organism will try to change, or that evolution, that point of evolution starts from there. So for coping with the extreme situations in the environment, only for that purpose, all the organisms are getting adapted, or they are developing some kind of adaptations. Then, so you know that adaptation, not only in the genetic level, we can see some organism, they'll develop some kind of physiological changes. They'll develop some kind of physiological changes. We can see that physiological change. So sometimes some other organism, they do some behavioral changes. They'll show some behavioral changes. So physiological changes, they may show behavioral changes. They may show their morphological changes also, you can observe. So behavioral changes, in the sense they may move or they may migrate from a less stressful habitat. Sorry, they may migrate from a stressful habitat to a less stressful habitat because they need to reduce that stress. For that, what they will do? They will migrate to a place where they have less stress. So such conditions are called as behavioral changes. And some organism, I said, they may show physiological changes or morphological changes and all. So we can say that adaptation, what is that? What adaptation is? Any behavioral or physiological or morphological attribute of organism. And these attributes that enables the organism to survive. And after survival, what they will do, if they can survive properly, they can reproduce, right? So in that organism, for existing in a particular habitat, if they want to exist in a particular habitat, first what they need to do, they need to get adapted to that situation. So they may show any behavioral or morphological or physiological attributes. With those attributes or with those changes, with those characters, they can get adjusted with that particular environment or particular habitat. And if they can survive in that habitat, they can go for reproduction. If they cannot exist or they are not able to adjust with that condition, they won't get such adaptations. Adaptations are for what? To get getting adjusted with the particular situations or habitat, or to live or to survive. To survive in particular conditions, they are evolving some characters, and that characters that may start from the genetic level. So they may show morphological changes, physiological changes, or behavioral changes. So all these changes, they are helping them to adjust, or they are getting adjusted with that habitat with the help of all this. And among these adaptations, many of them, it has evolved over a long time. That's why I said it is a part of evolutionary process. It's not a sudden change. It's not at all a sudden change. That is a part of evolutionary process. And they, through this evolutionary process, they are getting fixed genetically also. So these characters are getting fixed genetically also, and with the help of some examples, we can say this. We can explain this adaptations. So we'll start one by one, all these adaptations and all. So now, hope the concept of adaptation is clear. So next, let us take few examples to explain. First one is, it's about the kangaroo rat in North American desert. Okay. Here you can see the picture kangaroo rat, which is present in North American desert. And this kangaroo rat, when that external water source is absent, this kangaroo rat in North American desert that have some special adaptation to meet all the water requirements. Okay, how it is meeting all the water requirements? Because it is living in desert. So this kangaroo rat that is having special adaptation to meet all the water requirements. So how it is meeting all water requirements? Through its internal fat oxidation. Okay, note down, through internal fat oxidation. Sorry, through internal fat oxidation, it is meeting all the water requirements. Kangaroo rat, in the case of kangaroo rat, through internal fat oxidation process. That is the important point or important adaptation of the kangaroo rat. Through that internal fat oxidation In that oxidation process, what is the byproduct? Water. Water is the byproduct. Water is getting released as a byproduct. So with this water, which is released through that oxidation process as a byproduct, this is utilized for the activities or to fulfill the water requirement. That kangaroo rat is utilizing this water which is released as a byproduct of internal fat oxidation process. So in that internal fat oxidation process, water is the byproduct. Okay. And another one, usually all organisms, you know that urine. Through urine, all organisms can remove some external, some excretory products. In body, what are like through urine, they are removing so many products from the body, right? In human beings also, you know, and on other animals and other organisms, you know this. Through urine, they are removing the waste products of body. So more urine is produced in body of normal organism. In the body of normal organism, the volume of urine which is produced, that is more. Right? Usually doctors used to suggest that minimum these many liters of water you need to drink per day. 3 liters you need to drink, 4 liters you need to drink, like that. Because waste products, that are all the waste products almost through kidney, waste products are getting removed, and we need to drink more water for that purpose, and urine also will get produced in more volume. So that is for the removal of the waste products. That is one technique of body to remove the waste product, right? That is a process of body. So like that, normal organisms will have more urine production for the removal of excretory products. But in the case of kangaroo rat, that can concentrate urine also. Okay, why it is doing like that? By this, that can save water, that can make sure that minimal volume of water is used to remove the excretory products. Here in the case of human and all, through more volume of urine is produced, and through that excretory products are getting removed, right? But in the case of kangaroo rat, for that also it is concentrating the urine. It's concentrating urine, and it is making sure that minimal amount of water it is used for the removal of excretory products also. Got it? Next, another example. Next example is xerophytes. Xerophytes, you know that they are desert plants and they are called as xerophytes because they are desert plants. Those plants which are found in desert, they are called as xerophytes because they need very less water. So they have some special adaptation to live in the desert. What is that? On their leaf surface, here you can see, on the leaf surface, they have thick cuticle. They have thick cuticle. Desert plants or xerophytes, they have thick cuticle on their leaf surface. On their leaf surface, they have thick cuticle. This is the adaptations which is seen in plants. Okay, for an example, we are saying about xerophytes. Example of adaptation in plants. So their leaf surface, xerophytes, they have on their leaf surface they have thick cuticle. Then and the stomata. The stomata of such plants. What is the role of stomata? Stomata, that is helping for transpiration. So those stomatas are sunken. What do you mean by sunken stomata? Means stomata, they are in deep pits. Okay, they are in deep positions. So sunken stomata have thick cuticle on leaf. Why it is sunken? Because sunken stomata that helps to reduce the rate of transpiration. Sunken stomata and thick cuticle both are helping to reduce the transpiration rate. So they have sunken stomata and thick cuticle both helps to reduce the transpiration or water loss. So these are the adaptation, main adaptation of xerophytes or the desert plants. They have sunken stomata. That means stomata, they are in deep pits or deep positions. Then thick cuticle. Both helps to reduce the transpiration rate. And these desert plants or xerophytes, they have some special photosynthetic pathway. Special photosynthetic pathway which is called as CAM pathway. What is the full form of CAM pathway? Crassylation acid metabolism. Crassylation acid metabolism. Okay. Crassylation acid metabolism, CAM. Crassylation acid metabolism. So in some plants, especially in xerophytes, they have specialized photosynthetic pathway that is called as CAM pathway or crassylation acid metabolism. That pathway xerophytes are having. So especially the plants which are adapted to desert condition, the stomata are closed during daytime. During daytime, if stomata is open, means water evaporation or the transpiration rate will be more. Water loss will be more. So that daytime, this will be closed. Stomata will be closed and that opens at night. So these plants are said to show the crassylation acid metabolism or CAM pathway. Okay. So what is that? Xerophytes or those plants which are living in desert condition, the stomata are closed during daytime. Daytime, stomata will be closed and that opens at night. So these plants, they are showing the crassylation acid metabolism or CAM pathway. So first, this pathway was first discovered in which family? Crassulaceae family. That's why it is called as crassylation acid metabolism. First, it was discovered in Crassulaceae family. Then, the CAM pathway or crassylation acid metabolism, that pathway that enables those plants stomata to remain closed during daytime. Scotoactive stomata. It is called a scotoactive stomata. Means daytime it will be closed and that opens at night time only. Okay, with stomata opens at night time. Scotoactive stomata. That will become active at night time and the stomata will remain closed during daytime. So CAM pathway or crassylation acid metabolism pathway that enables the plants which are following that pathway, in that stomata will remain closed during daytime and the stomata will become active night time only. That will get open at night time only. Scotoactive stomata. That is called a scotoactive stomata. So in some other desert plants, like for example, you can see here the picture of Opentia. Opentia don't have leaves. You know that don't have leaves. And the leaves are modified into spine. You can see here thorn-like structure, that spine. But what is the use of this adaptation? Or if leaves are modified into spine means what is the use? Tell me what you can get from this. That means for what purpose that plant is doing like that? That is to reduce the surface area. To reduce the surface area, the leaves are modified into spines. Got it? Just imagine if leaves are broad, that will be having more stomata. The surface area will be more. And Transpiration rate also will be more. They will lose more water, right? If the leaves are not there and instead of that leaves it is modified into spine means, or the leaves are reduced into spine means that reduces water loss. Okay. So if you are learning about some example, we should know the reason also. So here, why the leaves are getting modified into spines in the case of Opentia, that is to prevent water loss. Because if leaves are there means that will increase the surface area and the number of stomata will be more and the stomata will spread over that leaf. So that transpiration or water loss will be more. So if it is getting modified into spines, the surface area will be less and water loss also they can prevent. And you can see in this type of plants that stem will be flattened green color. Here you can see flattened stem which is in green color. So usually in normal plants photosynthesis will take place where? Leaves are the sites for photosynthesis, right? They'll be having chlorophyll and everything. They'll conduct the photosynthesis. But here they don't have leaves. These kind of plants don't have leaves. So what they will do? Here you can see the flattened green colored stem. So these are called as phylloclade. We have learned this in 11th standard. Phylloclade, leaf modifications, different type of leaf modifications we have learned. So this green colored flattened stem that is called as phylloclade, and instead of leaf this phylloclade performs photosynthesis. This structures, this phylloclade flattened green color stem that will perform photosynthesis. Okay, so here we have learned two examples, kangaroo rat, then xerophytes, especially in the case of Opentia that don't have leaves and they are reduced into spines and the photosynthetic function it is taken over by flattened stem. Here leaves are modified into spines to reduce the surface area and the photosynthetic function it is taken over by the flattened stem. Green flattened stem. Okay. Next, another example is mammals from colder climates. So generally they have short limbs and short ears. Their limbs and ears will be short. Okay. So this is for what purpose it is like that? This is to minimize the heat loss. This is to minimize the heat loss. So this is called as Allen's rule. What is that? Allen's rule. Allen's rule, that is actually Allen's rule. It is formulated by Joel Asaph Allen. Joel Asaph Allen. In this rule, these animals they are adapted, which are adapted to the colder climate. They have thicker limbs and bodily appendages compared to animals which are adapted to warm climate. Got it? So this adaptation, this is for what? This is to minimize their heat loss. Okay, body heat, loss of body heat. To prevent that, they are doing like this. Next, in the polar sea, next example, we are moving to the next example. In polar seas, aquatic animals will be having a thick layer of fat in the polar sea. Polar sea aquatic mammals, they have a thick layer of fat. Okay. This thick layer of fat is called as blubber. What is that blubber? The thick layer of fat which is present in the aquatic mammals of polar seas. That is called as blubber. So blubber is found in the aquatic mammals below their skin, the thick layer of fat, it is seen. That is called as blubber. So this, for what purpose they are using this, or what kind of adaptation is this? This is to reduce the loss of body heat. And it is acting as an insulator also. So blubber, that is the thick layer of fat which is present in the aquatic mammals in the polar seas. Okay, under the skin there is a thick layer of fat which is called as blubber, which is found in the aquatic mammals of polar seas. So this is acting as an insulator, as well as this is helping to reduce the body heat. So that is called as the thick layer of fat. It is called as blubber. Next example, sixth one is some physiological adaptations we are going to talk about. See, like high altitude sickness. What is that? High altitude sickness. That is, this kind of problems can be experienced in high altitude. See, in a high altitude where body does not get enough oxygen. Why it is not getting enough oxygen at high altitude? Because low atmospheric pressure. Due to low atmospheric pressure, their body won't get enough oxygen. So due to that situation, that causes nausea. Nausea means a feeling of sickness, like some kind of vomiting sensation and all. Then fatigue. Then heart palpitation. That means heartbeats that suddenly become more noticeable. In a noticeable range it will reach, or irregular heartbeat. Okay. So under these conditions, body increases RBC production, and that decreases binding capacity of hemoglobin, increases breathing rate. The breathing rate will be more because we won't get enough oxygen. So breathing rate will be more to breathe, to get oxygen, and then body increases RBC production, then decreases binding capacity of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin binding capacity, that will reduce, body will reduce the binding capacity of hemoglobin and increases the breathing rate. But gradually we'll get adjusted and we'll stop that, or will stop experiencing that high altitude sickness. So this physiological adaptation, that is allowing that organism to respond quickly to that stressful condition, right? That is a stressful condition. So to such conditions, that physiological adaptation is allowing that organism to respond in a faster way, or there is a quick response, because of that response only body of that organism that is feeling some kind of nausea, then heartbeat or heart palpitation will be more, then some kind of fatigue, then breathing rate will be more. So such kind of quick response is shown by the body of organism. Okay, next is next one is in animals. In almost all the animals, physiological functions. In almost the animals, you can see physiological function. That, what do you mean by physiological function? In the sense that is including the metabolic processes that works in a narrow range of temperature. Okay, almost all organisms, I'm saying, in that the metabolic processes, like including all physiological processes, that will happen in a narrow range of temperature. So in the case of human beings, you know that it is around 37 degrees centigrade. But there are some microorganisms, like, hope you heard about archaebacteria. This also, about archaebacteria also you have studied in 11th standard. So that lives in hot spring and deep sea hydrothermal vents. Archaebacteria, they are special group. They are able to live in extreme temperature ranges. Okay, so the temperature range that is 100 degree and above. In that much highest temperature also they can exist. So in such microorganism, all physiological processes, all their metabolic processes, everything is taking place in high temperature because they got adapted in that condition. Actually, archaebacteria can live under extreme temperature and pH. About archaebacteria we have learned. So their cell membrane, in archaebacteria, their cell membrane, how it is getting adapted, or what is the special feature which is helping them to get adapted to this condition? That's what I'm going to say now. Their cell membrane contain branched chain lipid. Okay, that is a special feature. The cell membrane of archaebacteria contain branched chain lipid, and that helps to decrease the membrane fluidity. That branched chain lipid helps to decrease the membrane fluidity. And the special composition of that cell membrane that helps the archaebacteria to withstand extreme temperature and pH. Branched chain lipid which is present in the cell membrane. Cell membrane of archaebacteria that helps the membrane, help to decrease the membrane fluidity, and that special composition of that cell membrane that is helping the archaebacteria to withstand extreme pH and temperature. Okay, so that's about archaebacteria. One example, one adaptation, special adaptation which archaebacteria are in microbes. That's what we said about archaebacteria that can withstand high range of or a wide range of temperature, like above 100 degrees centigrade, that can live. Okay. So we said about colder climate mammals, they have short ears and limbs, that is for minimizing the heat loss. Then polar sea aquatic mammals, they have a thick layer of fat which is called as blubber below their skin, that is acting as insulator, and that helps to reduce the loss of body heat. And next, what we said, high altitude sickness, that is physiological adaptation, where oxygen availability is less, body shows nausea, fatigue, and heart palpitations because the atmosphere, at high altitude, atmospheric pressure will be low, so the body cannot manage with that because body won't get enough oxygen. But slowly it will get adjusted due to this kind of response of body. Slowly it will get adjusted. So slowly it will get adjusted. That means you will get acclimatized and it will stop that high altitude sickness. That experience will reduce. Then next one which we said is metabolic reactions and physiological functions. There will be narrow range of temperature in most of the animals. But in some microbes, there are some microbes, archaebacteria, and these can live in a wide range of temperature like 100 degrees centigrade and all. They can live because of the special feature. They are in their cell membrane, they have branched chain lipids, and this is decreasing the membrane fluidity. So with that special composition of that cell membrane, that archaebacteria can withstand extreme temperature and pH range. Next one is, next example is about Antarctic fish. Antarctic fishes, and these fishes, they can survive below 0 degrees centigrade. How they can survive below 0 degrees centigrade? This Antarctic fish, they can survive below 0 degrees centigrade. How is it possible? How they can survive below 0 degrees centigrade? Because the body fluid of this fish, the Antarctic fish, the body fluid of these fishes that contain antifreeze solutes. Okay, body fluid of these fishes, they contain antifreeze solutes. Some solutes which are having anti-freezing property that is present in the body fluid of this Antarctic fishes. Okay, with the help of these antifreeze solutes, they can manage to keep their body fluids from freezing. Okay, so the body fluids, it is having or it is containing antifreeze solutes. So with the presence of this antifreeze solutes, the body fluid is not getting freezed. So that organism is able to manage that body fluid without freezing. So they can survive below 0, the freezing temperature, that is 0. Below 0 also they can survive. So large variety of marine invertebrates like fishes, they have adapted biochemically to survive in the great depth of ocean, because they have special kind of adaptation so that they can survive under deep sea also. So at deep sea or deep ocean, at great depth of ocean, the pressure will be more than 100 times when compared to the normal atmospheric pressure. So at that stage also, these organisms are able to survive that pressure which is called as crushing pressure. Okay. So the atmospheric pressure in deep sea and all, it will be more. Still, those organisms have special kind of adaptation to adjust with that. Okay. Then next example is desert lizard. Some other organisms like desert lizard, they don't have, or they lack that physiological ability. They don't have that physiological ability to adjust with the extreme temperature. Okay, here you can see the desert lizard. They cannot adjust with the extreme temperature. But how they are managing that? But they can manage the body temperature by behavioral means. Okay, we said there is morphological, physiological and behavioral adaptations. So by means of behavioral way, they are adjusting or they are managing the body temperature by behavioral means in the case of desert lizard. Okay. So what they will do? They bask in the sun. What do you mean by bask in the sun? That means they lie exposed to the warm light. To that warmth. Okay, they need that warm condition and that light, mainly or typically it is from the sun. So in the sun, they absorb the heat when their body temperature drops below the comfort zone. Okay, when their body temperature is going below the comfort zone, they will expose their body to absorb, they expose the body to the sun and they absorb that heat, and after that, when it is reaching to the comfort zone, up to that they will absorb that heat. But they when that ambient temperature, that temperature will start increasing, when it is starting to increase, that temperature is starting to increase, that moment they'll move to the shade, they'll move into the shade and they will get adjusted with that. See, they need that sunlight and that warmth, but they cannot live in that high temperature and all. So what they will do for that, whenever they need or whenever their temperature is going below that comfort zone, they will get exposed to that sun and they'll absorb heat. And when it is reaching at correct body temperature, they will move into the shade, and this kind of adaptations desert lizards are showing. So that is, they don't have that physiological ability. Okay, so that mammals, which mammals have that physiological ability that these lizards, they don't have. So how they'll manage? They'll bask in the sun and absorb heat when their body temperature drops below the comfort zone. But after that, when it is reaching the comfort zone, they'll move into the shade, and that's how they are managed. Got it? So these are the examples for adaptations. So next we are moving to populations. So all these examples are very important about adaptation. Whichever examples, there is physiological, behavioral and morphological, everything, all kind of adaptations are there. So all examples are very, very important. Next is population. So how to define population? Population means a group of organisms. We have already learned what is population. Population means the group of organisms of one species occupying a defined geographical area. See, at a defined geographical area, one particular group of organisms is living. That is called as population. So these organisms which are coming in a population, they are sharing or they are competing for the similar resources, right? All the organisms which are coming under a population, they are sharing the similar resources. At the same time, they are competing for the similar resources. And another point is they interbreed. In a population, the organism interbreed. But at the same time, they are interbreeding and they are producing same kind of organism. But they show some degree of differences from other similar groups. From other similar groups, there will be to one population, other population will be having some kind of similarity. But they'll be having some degree of differences that makes different type of populations, right? We said they interbreed, right? What do you mean by interbreeding? In one way, that interbreeding shows sexual reproduction, right? Interbreeding, they are breeding them in between or they are breeding in themselves. So, but in between those organisms, the breeding processes are going on. So that means a kind of sexual reproduction. We can say it as a sexual reproduction. But a group of individuals resulting from even asexual reproduction, that's also considered as population. Asexual reproduction. Through asexual reproduction also populations are created. See, for ecological studies, we need to consider like that also. For example, for population, cormorant in wetland. Cormorant, that is a dark feathered bird. A group of bird which is having dark feather and all. So for population, we are saying examples. In wetland, cormorant population. Then in a culture plate, you can see population of bacteria. In wetland, cormorant, that is a group of birds, a type of birds. That makes a population. In a culture plate, you can see bacterial population of bacteria. In a pond, you can say population of lotus plants. Then in a forest, you can say some trees like teakwood or something. That makes a population, right? So all these are examples of population. And among these, some populations, they may show sexual reproduction and some shows asexual reproduction methods, isn't it? So the population ecology, that is very important because that is a link between ecology and population genetics and evolution. So population ecology is very important because that is giving a link between population genetics and evolution. Because individual organism, is the one that has to cope up with the changed environment. But to select a desired trait, if you want to select a desired trait, natural selection works at population level, right? A desired trait, which, see, in a population, so many organisms will be there, but all of them will be having same features, right? That is called as population. But there will be slight difference. Individual organism, each will be having its own character. The slight difference in among those population or a group of organism which is called as a population, among that, which one is the best one, which is the best character that will survive, right? Nature will select the best character in that population so that it can get adjusted with that environment and it can survive in that environment. So that character will be passed. Nature will select those characters. So that's why population ecology becomes very important in the area of study. Okay. Next. Population. Now we said about population. Then population attributes. We need to learn. There are different characteristics for this population. Like population size of that population, then sex ratio of that population, then population age, like the different characters are there. So these and all we need to population attributes, that is a different topic. We need to learn different characters or different attributes of a population that we need to explain. So in the next class, we'll be learning about population attributes. Hope up to this everything is clear. So next class, we'll be learning. Today we have learned about different kind of adaptations. So each and everything, all examples are very important, mainly for NEET exam. In this, blubber, that is very important. Then high altitude sickness. Then the archaebacteria, the feature of that archaebacteria which is helping them to survive in high temperature. All those are asked repeatedly. Those questions are repeated many times. Then population attributes we'll be discussing in the next class. Thank you.